James Kaufman, World News Report today, July 14th, 2025. God bless you and yours, no matter where you are in the world. Please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell for critical future updates. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a large uptick in overall earthquake activity overnight. I will show you all the magnitude 4, 5, and 6 earthquakes at volcanoesandearthquakes.com next. But first, let's review the pinnacle of last night's activity. We had a magnitude 6.7 earthquake pop off in the Indonesia area, and it came in as a 5 on the DYFI, which means it was in a very unpopulated area, 6 on the shake map, associated tsunami warning. The USGS guesstimated that depth at 65.7 kilometers. You can see there's a swarm of large earthquakes in that immediate area. Now, this quake was at the end of a plate boundary that's still trying to connect to another plate boundary. However, there are no active volcanoes around this particular quake. Before we go on to getting further details about this large earthquake, I thought we would jump over to Mount Rainier for an update. Now, the USGS's depletion curve has not really worked out. We're back in an uptick with 34 earthquakes in the last 24 hours. The 3 that you see in red happened in the last hour. We are currently on day 7 of this earthquake swarm with no end in sight. The second largest swarm was in 2009 and lasted for only 3 days. The third hour of this particular swarm, we had a total of 30 earthquakes in 1 hour. So we have settled down quite a bit, but this is still a very active swarm. Jumping over to volcanoesandearthquakes.com, you can get a feel for the uptick here. These are all the magnitude 4, 5, and 6 earthquakes that occurred last night. We see a big uptick, especially around the Indonesian Philippine area and around Zealandia, or really Fiji, the Fiji area, and Tonga, that look like they're associated with Zealandia Rising and 2 active volcanoes. Now, this particular 6.7 was at the end of a plate tectonic boundary, and I will show you all that before we move on. It looks like Indonesia is the source of this information. A 6.7 at 61 miles of depth, or 98 kilometers. We also have the Germans coming in at a 6.6 and Raspberry Shake coming in at a 7.0. Wow. So what do I mean that this is on a plate boundary, but a plate boundary that's not connecting? The plate boundaries are in red here. You can see that the blue and black are where they think the plate boundaries are forming or will form in black. You can see the red ends here, right where that earthquake popped off, the 6.7 earthquake. Let's get some detailed information on that quake. Moving over to volcanodiscovery.com, we see that we've had a very strong magnitude 6.7 earthquake near the Banda Sea, not near any populated areas, thus the DYFI very low in this case. Taking a look at some earthquake details here, we see that we have a 6.7 magnitude earthquake. We see that Indonesia is our main source of seismic information, and that this actually released about 10.6 atomic bombs worth of energy. So it was a rather large earthquake for sure. only 151 reports of feeling this huge earthquake, which again puts it in a very unpopulated area. All right, comparing quake data from different agencies. Starting out with the Indonesian government, a 6.7, 98 kilometers. Germany, a 6.6 at 66 kilometers. I surely don't like those numbers. Raspberry Shake, a 7.0 at a default depth of 10 kilometers. Notice the asterisks go down here. A depth given as 10 kilometers often means that the depth of the quake could not be determined with sufficient accuracy. Next, we have a 6.7 coming out of the USGS, a 6.18 coming out of the French, a 6.7 coming out of the Incorporated Research Institute for Seismology at 66 kilometers as well. And we have the Australians coming in at a 6.7, 52 kilometers of depth. The Italians coming in at a 6.5, 78 kilometers of depth. The Europeans coming in at a 6.7, 80 kilometers worth of depth. So that's where the different agencies all came in. So this earthquake did have an associated tsunami warning with it. So I thought we would check the National Data Buoy Center to see if any of our buoys were in event mode over the last 24 hours. We see absolutely nothing around the globe. And looking in that specific area, which would be around this area here, we see no buoys in event mode whatsoever. We can assume that no tsunami was created. So with all that said, we had a very strong magnitude 6.7 earthquake in Indonesia at about 66 kilometers of depth. It came in as a 5 on the DYFI. It was actually out in the water. It was on a plate tectonic boundary. It did have a tsunami associated with it, or a tsunami warning. We did check the buoys and no tsunami was created. We also took a quick look at the progress over at Mount Rainier, and it looks like it's holding steady with about 34 earthquakes over the last 24 hours, and this is the 8th day of the earthquake swarm at the crest of Mount Rainier. With that said, God bless you and yours. Please share, subscribe. Always remember, anything's possible in Bizarro World.